I moved to his country and have been missing my family and friends a lot. And naturally, when I catch signs that his family friends don't like me, I get worried and hurt. For example, her mother wanted to fly over to where we were living at that time for our signing of the marriage contract. And because it was not in English, she specifically referred to her son when she said, "I'm doing it for you." I was right there, cooking dinner for everyone. It hurt me. And my husband never acknowledged that it was something valid to be hurt by. He even tried to convince me that it's not what I heard. It was just a few simple words, so I know what I heard. Her mother would always say that she looks forward to seeing her son, etc. When she talks to both of us and uses the single form of you in her language to refer to her son, even though I'm right there, I feel excluded from the start, even though I was always trying to make conversations or help out during gatherings to get to know his family and friends. I never had such issues with his dad, and it's only when I explain that this is something that his dad would never do say. Then he starts to see where I'm coming from. I thought that was the end of it, that I finally get some support from my own husband. But these last few months, he started to joke that I hate his mom and don't want to see her. Ever since I moved to his country, all I did was going to every family event, despite being a complete introvert and expending lots of social energy and feeling social anxiety. And today I realized that he joked so much so that he actually believed that I hate his mother, even though I had never once said so. I was merely concerned that his mother hates me instead. Whenever there's odd behavior from his side of people, quick context. I'm a highly sensitive person who picks up social cues very easily. For those who never heard of HSPs, I encourage you to read more about it. I pointed out to him because there's no one else I can really talk to. I mean, his best friend basically made discriminatory gestures and remarks at me. And the first thing my husband said was that his friend doesn't have bad intentions, that he really loves me as a friend, LOL. I forgave the friend even though he never apologized to me directly, and we recently met up with him. I barely spoke more than a sentence because I was either ignored or cut off. I ended up taking care of his kids while the two of them took a fun ride out. My husband noticed I shut down, but he didn't do anything anyway. He apologized later, but whenever we argue, he would bring up that I hate all his friends and family because I pointed out how they behave towards me. He repeatedly said that I always look for signs that people don't like me, that I'm negative as hell, that telling him about the behavior of his friends and family piles up on him too. It's true that I'm not the number one optimistic person in the world, but I definitely don't go looking for signs. They're just pretty darn obvious to me. And even so, I still try to show up at family events and talk to them. Yet he'd put lies in his head by saying that I don't put in any effort and that I hate everyone in his life. He also doesn't see that just because I can't be close to every single person in his social life, it means that I hate all of them, and I should be the only one to fix that. He also conveniently forgets that I often tell him how much I like some of the other family members, so because I don't mention the rest, it means I hate the rest, LOL. And he keeps insisting that he knows me well, and he doesn't need to understand me any more than he did already. But he doesn't know me at all. One of the most important things that matter to me is also having a husband who can care for you when you're bedridden. He just isn't one. The first time in our relationship, he indirectly made me become hospitalized, and I was in excruciating pain. But he was not in the same country, so all he did was give me a quick video call. I thought that was odd, but gave him the benefit of the doubt. The second major illness, he did fly over to see me, and that was great. But I had my parents who did most of the caring. And now this time I had infection 19, and it was so awful I could barely stand well on 2 feet. And he didn't even bother giving me some water nor food. I had to cook it myself. My family has always shown me how to care for people when they're sick, and I've cared for him too, even if he just has a minor tummy ache. Yet he said that during his childhood, he had to do the same by doing everything himself at 12 years old, because his parents didn't show him what caring for someone looked like. I agree that it's sad, but doesn't the care that I showed him in these 10 years of relationship mean anything? This virus may be nothing to me, but I'm worried if we ever have a child, will he just neglect me if I'm pregnant and sick? I asked him this, and he just basically told me not to be ridiculous, LOL. Edit. I want to thank you all for your support. It really means a lot to me to know that I'm not crazy, LOL. I'm finding it really hard to even imagine that my husband, whom I love, is a toxic person. I fell in love with him because he's a gentle and sweet person who always makes time for his grandma and calls her beautiful all the time. He also quit his job to fly to a new country with me to do my studies before we both flew back to his country to settle down. That was when things become challenging. Starting to live together. I feel like I have to be his mom the whole time in terms of the house chores that need to be done, even till now. I recognize weaponizing competence in his behavior sometimes, but not too often. And we've had multiple fights because of the chores. I always have to rewash things that he washed. He says that I have too many rules at home when all I want is a clean and organized home. Then he says I need to stop calling him a child. I've been unemployed for a few months now after finishing grad school, and it's the first time I'm depending on him to eat and sleep. Even when my graduate student pay was like 5 times lower than his, I still insisted on doing 50-50 for rent and grocery spendings because I never felt comfortable in taking what's his. I've never once stopped looking for jobs and worked hard at the same time in learning his language to talk to his family friends. We both speak English, though. Whenever I'm stressed financially, he always assured me that he can take care of us, and I should focus on looking for the job I want. And today he told me I have done nothing for him. He said he works hard and gives me everything I need, and all I do is complain about him and the people in his life. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You need to leave like yesterday. Go back to the people who love and value you, OP. Stop wasting your time and energy on these toxic individuals. If you don't want to go to those lengths quite yet, you need to sit with your husband and discuss everything you've said here. 2 things might happen. He might support you, or he might downplay it, in which case, please for your own sake, leave instantly. Now for the update, thanks for sticking with me here. So the other day, something happened that really got under my skin. My husband's sister, who's always been kind of cold to me, decided to throw a family dinner. I thought, okay, maybe this is a chance to smooth things over. But when we got there, she announced her engagement. Everyone was thrilled. Except she made a point to say that her fiancé had asked for everyone's blessing, except mine. It was like a slap in the face right there in front of everyone. I tried to brush it off, but later that night, my husband and I got into it. He said I was being too sensitive and that it wasn't a big deal. But how could he not see it? It was so blatant. I was fuming, and I told him that if he couldn't stand up for me now, how could I expect him to do so in the future? He didn't have much to say to that. A few days passed, and I was still feeling raw about the whole thing. Then, out of nowhere, my husband's best friend, the one who had made those discriminatory comments before, showed up at our door. He said he wanted to apologize, that he'd been thinking a lot and realized how wrong he was. I was skeptical, but he seemed genuine. We talked, and for the first time, I felt like maybe he did understand. It was a small win, but it felt significant. But just when I thought things might be turning around, my husband dropped a bomb on me. He said he'd been thinking, and that maybe we rushed into this marriage, that maybe we weren't as compatible as he thought. I was stunned. After everything, this is what he comes to me with? I couldn't believe it. I asked him if this was about his family, about me not fitting in, and he couldn't give me a straight answer. I spent the next few days in a daze, trying to make sense of it all. I thought about our whole relationship, about all the times I'd felt like an outsider with his family and friends, and how he never really stood up for me. And then it hit me. I didn't need to be part of a family that didn't want me. I didn't need to be with someone who couldn't see my worth. So I made a decision. I told my husband that I was done trying to fit into a mold that was never meant for me. I was done being the one always making the effort. If he couldn't support me, then maybe we were better off apart. He tried to backtrack, said he didn't mean it, but I could see the relief in his eyes. It was over. I'm not gonna lie, it's been tough, but I also feel a weight lifted. I'm starting to look for a place of my own, focusing on finding a job and rebuilding my life without him. It's not going to be easy, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm taking control of my own happiness. and that's worth more than any forced family dinner or a half-hearted apology. Thanks for reading. My partner's mental breakdown turned our love into a nightmare. But when they begged for a second chance, I chose my sanity and slammed the door shut on our toxic past. How to heal from a roller coaster relationship. Male, 30 years old. Female, 30 years old. Question: how would you heal from the fallout of a roller coaster relationship that ended with your partner threatening unalived and being admitted to a mental hospital? Do you have specific strategies that have worked for you in the past, or know of anything that might be helpful? What advice would you give to someone trying to heal without wallowing? I am seeking specific tactical advice on how to heal from a roller coaster relationship and come out on the other side. Context: it started out okay, but now she is currently dealing with a mental health crisis, and I know that I cannot handle it alone. So we are transferring care to her family. Facts: we were together for 11 months. My partner's mental health rapidly declined, and she ended up being hospitalized. My partner is very charming and conventionally beautiful, and I have fallen for that at times. My partner has physically attacked me. My partner lied to me about past cheating when I asked. My partner lied to me about past relationships and intimacy encounters. I had been dating my partner for 11 months. We share creative passions and hobbies like no one else I have ever met. She is in many ways my muse. We connected on a deep, emotional level very early on. She completely wowed me from the moment I met her, and I fell in love quickly. I am struggling with feelings of deep betrayal right now. I noticed that things were a bit off in the first few months, but I ignored a few red flags because I didn't know how to interpret them. I had only been in a few other relationships prior. She would get very upset over small things like who paid for a bill or scheduling dates and start crying, getting angry, etc. Otherwise, things were good, and she was showing me a lot of love and affection. She moved in with me. I know, not a great idea. That's when things got really bad. Once, she slapped me for waking her up when she was trying to sleep. She would scream at me and just generally have a hard time functioning. She would get so intense that I almost ended it many times. But each time, she somehow won me back through her charm. She would call me the love of her life and talk to me about getting engaged. She was really intense with her ways of making me feel special if she felt I was drifting away. Now, she is receiving mental health treatment, and I am realizing that this explains many of the strange things that happened. I have made the decision to break it off. However, it means that I am in a bad state and left with a void. What can I do to transition and heal from this? I already go to the gym, and I already have a therapist booked. I know that I want a healthy relationship, but I am feeling scarred and trying to make sure this doesn't develop into PTSD. Thank you to anyone who offers advice. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I was in a coercive and controlling relationship where my ex used the threat of unalived as a weapon. First of all, you are to be congratulated for extricating yourself in a relatively short time frame. Your ex is hurtful and clearly seriously mentally ill. It's great you are into exercise, as that is a lifeline. Therapy is on your list, which is another significant bonus. Repeat after me, it is not my fault if my ex self-harms as often as you need to do so. Whatever the ultimate diagnosis is for your ex, you have done your best for her and yourself by getting her the medical help she needs and telling her family to support her. There is nothing more you can do, and you must not reproach yourself. You will recover, and you might find after the passage of time the occasional twinge of emotion towards her. That is okay, but for your own sake, you need to block her, and if necessary, her family if they try and drag you back into the drama. Concentrate on your newly single life, and don't rebound into another relationship just yet. Good luck. Comment 2. Take time for yourself without dating. Start creating a physical list of what your core values are. One of those values should be no physical violence toward anyone, ever. Another one would be not tolerating lying. Make those values something to truly live by in your friendships, workplace, and your relationships with family. Start closely examining the current relationships in your life, no matter how small, and draw boundaries when necessary. Nobody stays in a tumultuous relationship without having experience with family or friends in the past who they are willing to tolerate similar behavior from. Dig deep to see where you're making excuses for this behavior. Is it a best bud that keeps asking for money, favors, or lying to you? Is it a mother that was physically hurtful? Either cut those relationships completely or dial them way, way back. You need it for your own healing and to find out how to be true to yourself in interpersonal relationships before you enter into dating again. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around to hear more. So much has happened since my last post, and I've got to get it off my chest. After I decided to break it off, things went south fast. Her family took over her care, but she kept calling me, begging me to come back. She said she couldn't live without me. I felt guilty, like I was abandoning her when she needed me most. But I had to stay strong. I couldn't go back to that chaos. Then, out of nowhere, she showed up at my place. She had been released for a day pass and used it to see me. She was crying, saying she was sorry and that she'd change. It was hard to see her like that, but I had to be firm. I told her we were done and she needed to focus on getting better. She left, but not before she made a scene that had my neighbors peeking through their curtains. The next day, her brother called. She'd taken a bunch of pills and was back in the hospital. I felt like it was my fault. I was torn up inside, thinking maybe I should have been more supportive. But deep down, I knew I couldn't fix her. She needed professional help, not a boyfriend who was out of his depth. I tried to distract myself. Work was a mess, and my boss was on my case about a project deadline. I was putting in extra hours, trying to keep my mind off things, but it was tough. I'd come home to an empty apartment, and all I could think about was her. My friends tried to help. They'd invite me out, but I just wasn't in the mood. I felt like I was walking around with a dark cloud over my head. I started skipping the gym, and I'd just sit at home, scrolling through old photos of us, which was a mistake. Then, I got a call from the hospital. She was stable, but they said she kept asking for me. They wanted to know if I'd be willing to be part of her treatment plan. I was at a crossroads. I wanted to help, but I also needed to protect myself. I agreed to one meeting, thinking maybe it would give us both some closure. The meeting was intense. She apologized for everything, but she also made it clear she still wanted to be with me. I felt so much pressure. I knew I couldn't go back to her, but I also couldn't shake the feeling that I was giving up on someone I once loved. I talked to my therapist about it. She said I had to put my own mental health first. It was tough advice to take, but I knew she was right. I told the hospital I couldn't be involved anymore. They understood, but I could tell they were disappointed. Things at work got worse. My boss gave me an ultimatum: shape up or ship out. I was on thin ice, and I knew it. I had to get my act together. I started going back to the gym, trying to get back into a routine. It helped a bit, but I was still struggling. One night, I got a text from her. She said she was being released soon and wanted to try again. I didn't reply. The next morning, I found out she'd been in an accident. She was okay, but it was a wake-up call. I realized I couldn't keep getting sucked back into her drama. It was time to make a clean break. I changed my number, blocked her on all social media, and told her family I couldn't be in contact anymore. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I felt like I was being cold, but I had to think about my own well-being. Now I'm just trying to move on. I'm focusing on work and slowly getting back into my old hobbies. I still think about her, but I'm starting to feel like I can breathe again. It's not easy, but I'm taking it one day at a time. Thanks for reading. It helps to talk about it. My boyfriend says he'll never marry me after I cook and clean for him. So I take the job offer and leave him struggling with his failing business. So my boyfriend, 42-year-old male, and I, 38-year-old female, have been dating for about 4 years. There was a short break somewhere between those years. Now we live in different towns about 90 minutes away from each other. He has a construction business where he lives, and I have to live in my town because of my kids, 11 and 13, who I share custody of with my ex-husband. With that being said, I drive to his town 2-4 times a week, 99% of the time that we've been together. He isn't involved in my kids' day-to-day life. He'll come to choir concerts every few months, but he does plan vacations and trips when the kids have time off school. Also, my old job was full commission, and he has helped me financially when I had bad months. With that being said, when I do go to his home, I do all of the cleaning and 90% of the cooking. I never ask or expect him to do things. I try to repay and show him appreciation where and when I can. For the most part, when we are together, we get along. I have a bit of anxiety, and he's very patient. He's gotten me into skiing, which I love. He's smart and ambitious, and he makes me laugh. He's handsome, and he makes me want to be a better person. Lately, we've been having a hard time with our intimacy life, but it may be because he's getting older and everything that comes with that. Despite that, I love him very much. Then I ask what we are. I ask, do you think we'll ever get married? Do you think we'll ever have a life together? And he looks at me straight in the face with no emotion and tells me, no, I will never marry you. He reiterates, he never wants to get married. He tells me we have a life together. He tells me he doesn't want to be with anyone else. Okay. Then I think of taxi cabs. If you know, you know. What do I do with this information? How do I not let it destroy me and question everything we might have together? Is this why he doesn't want to have intimacy with me anymore? What is he doing with me? Why do I feel like someone died? All these questions for months. Questioning myself and my worth. What do I want? What do I do? Who do I talk to? Does he not love me? I can't tell anyone. It's so embarrassing. I dropped off my dog for doggy daycare, and my dog sitter asked if I'm ever going to get married to my boyfriend, my friends, my mom. I'm ashamed of myself. I feel like I'm not worth having a life with. I feel broken. Then I think maybe he needs time. Maybe I need to be patient. Maybe I need to accept that love doesn't need a wedding. Love doesn't mean marriage. But I don't want to spend my life being someone's girlfriend. I never got proposed to properly in my first marriage. I've photographed weddings for so long, I've watched people in love, and I don't think he's in love with me. And I'm hurting. I don't know what to do. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. What do you really get out of this? You drive 90 minutes to go clean his house. He should be ashamed of how useless he is. Honestly, you'd probably enjoy your life more if you just stopped wasting all this effort and time on such things. Next time, it's time to go drive to his house to do chores. Maybe stop and ask yourself if you'd rather go have some wine with a friend. Clean up your own house and get ahead on that. Watch a movie with your kids. Just start enjoying your life and step back and see if he makes any effort to be a part of it. He either does, which is an automatic improvement in your life circumstances, or he doesn't, which means you've lost dead weight, which is also an improvement. Comment 2. I'm sorry everyone is giving you such a hard time about marriage. You should get married because that's what you want, not because your dog sitter thinks you should. However, maybe there's a silver lining that they've pushed you to ask, because you can waste a lot of years dating someone who is fundamentally incompatible with you, which this guy is. You aren't going to marry him, and he's not going to get you to show up to clean his house every weekend for the rest of his life. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around. A lot has happened since the last post. So, the other day, I found out my boyfriend has been keeping a secret. Turns out, he's been in touch with his ex. I stumbled upon messages on his phone. Not that I was snooping, it buzzed. And I saw her name flash up. They were talking about meeting up to catch up on old times. It felt like a punch in the gut. I confronted him, and he said it was nothing, just old friends talking. But why hide it? Why lie? It made me think about all those trips I made to see him, all the meals I cooked, and the cleaning I did. It felt like a slap in the face. I was fuming, but before I could process that, my ex-husband called. He's moving across the country for a new job, and he wants to take the kids with him. He said it's a great opportunity for them, better schools, a nicer neighborhood. But that's my time with my kids he's talking about taking away. I told him no way I'd fight it. But deep down, I was scared. What if the court says it's better for the kids? What if they want to go? In the middle of all this, My boyfriend's business started struggling. He's been stressed, snapping at me over little things. I tried to be supportive, but it's hard when you're dealing with your own mess. He didn't even notice I was upset about my ex-husband's news. It's like he's wrapped up in his own world. Then, as if things couldn't get worse, I got a call from my old job. They wanted me back, said I was the best they had, offered me a position with a steady salary, not just commission. It was tempting, really tempting, but it would mean less flexibility with the kids, and I'd have to give up the freedom I've had. Plus, I'd be further away from my boyfriend's town. I was torn. I needed the money, especially if I was going to fight for custody. But then, my boyfriend did something unexpected. He offered to help me financially, said he didn't want me to take the job if it would make me unhappy. It was a sweet gesture, but it also felt like he was trying to keep me tied to him, dependent. I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was being pulled in a million directions. My friend said I should take the job, that I needed to think about my future. My mom said I should fight for my kids, that they needed their mother. And my boyfriend, well, he just wanted things to stay the same. In the end, I took the job. I needed to feel secure, to have something that was mine. It's going to be hard, juggling work and the custody battle, but I have to do it. As for my boyfriend, I decided to give him a chance to explain himself about his ex. He swore it was innocent, that he loved me. I wanted to believe him, so I did. Maybe I'm a fool, but I can't help it. I love him even though he'll never marry me. So here I am, trying to balance a new job, fight for my kids, and hold on to a relationship that might be built on lies. I'm not sure if I'm making the right choices, but they're mine to make. I'm just trying to keep my head above water, hoping that somehow everything will work out in the end. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.